The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Behind her soft smile and calm voice, prosecutors say lurked a woman consumed by apocalyptic delusions. Lori Daybell's belief in dark spirits and end times prophecies led investigators to two shallow graves in rural Idaho, the resting place of her children, Tylee and JJ. The so-called doomsday mother stood accused of trading her humanity for a twisted vision of salvation. Through every court appearance, Lori maintained an eerie serenity, but the evidence was undeniable. Lori convicted in separate murder cases in two different states, back in court, this time fighting with the judge. We'll show you the killer's obnoxious attitude in court. Meanwhile, the courtroom fell silent as the verdict was read. Guilty. Bionca Ellis, once a quiet Ohio woman, now forever branded a killer. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture, a random act of violence that shattered an innocent family's world. Security footage, blood evidence, and her own words told a story too horrifying to ignore. Through the trial, Ellis sat emotionless, showing little sign of remorse. Today, Judgment Day for Ellis, as it was time for the judge to decide if she would ever have a chance to be released for the brutal murder of a little boy who just went to the store with his mom. But first, Melodee Buzzard, a bright 9-year-old from Santa Barbara County, California, vanished under mysterious circumstances, sparking a nationwide search. Authorities say her mom, Ashlee, took her on a drive from California to Nebraska, but Melodee did not return home. Investigators say Ashlee has been largely uncooperative, offering few explanations as police struggle to piece together the girl's final movements. Tonight, the latest in this ongoing investigation as Melodee's other family members gather at her home, praying for this missing 9-year-old. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. We have a lot of stories to get to this hour. We'll begin with this missing 9-year-old, Melodee Buzzard. Now, we know, you know, we all know about the Constitution. We all have a right to remain silent. You know, when police come calling or a DA is talking to you or anyone else, you don't have to say anything. Constitution protects your rights. You have the right to remain silent. And when you give up that right, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And we see it all the time. Now, we've got a case involving this little girl involving Ashlee Buzzard. Ashlee is a mom. She is the mother of the missing 9-year-old. And she has been seemingly exercising that right to remain silent and not cooperate with authorities. But she's in a little different position than most ordinary folks because she is a mom. She's the mom of a 9-year-old who seemingly is missing. And she has sole custody of that child, the legal responsibility for that child. And at some point, when a child is missing, there's going to be an investigation. And in this case, CPS has come a knocking on her door, Child Protective Services. So when Protective Services, an arm of the state, of the government, comes knocking because there may be an issue involving the safety and welfare of your child, well, all of a sudden, that right to remain silent, it still exists, but silence can be used against you if, in fact, you are asked to produce that child. If you are ordered to produce that child and you continue to remain silent, now all of a sudden it's a problem for you and could be a problem for Ashlee Buzzard, who seemingly is not cooperating with investigators or with CPS in trying to figure out where is Melodee? Where's your 9-year-old girl? That's the question. It's a simple one for most parents. We're going to be talking about Lori Daybell later this hour, but remember, that's how that whole entire investigation began. Where are your children? And then she was served poolside with papers ordering her to produce the children. She didn't. She was arrested. Okay. But where is Melodee is obviously the big question, and it's a question that the family of Melodee's father want answered. Reporter Crystal Bermudez with Scripps News Group in Santa Barbara County, California, has the latest for us tonight.
We pray for Melodee and her safety, Father God. We also pray for Ashlee. We lift her up, Father God, and we just ask that you continue to give us answers, Father God.
Melodee's father's side of the family organized the vigil, saying they refuse to give up hope.
If she's listening, we love you. We're here for you. And we just want you to be happy and call me.
While Melodee's father died in a motorcycle crash when she was 6 months old, his mother tells me he's there in spirit.
This is my baby boy. And he's gone, and she was just a baby, but here, I took this picture at the hospital. I walking in, and he said, Mom, wait, Mom. I know your dad is watching you from heaven. I love you, baby.
Family members say the weight of each day without answers is unbearable.
I just can't stop thinking about this, and I hope something good comes out of this.
People across the Lompoc community tell me they felt called to come out.
Melodee, we love you. We care about you. We want you to be safe.
The Santa Barbara County District Attorney's Office confirmed with KSBY News it is consulting with the Sheriff's Office on this case, with authorities saying Melodee's mother has been uncooperative with the investigation. I reached out to a local attorney for insight on options authorities could have.
If that little girl doesn't turn up, they could file charges against the mother, and they could file child endangerment charges, felony child endangerment charges.
Investigators say Melodee's last known whereabouts were during a 3-day road trip to Nebraska with her mother between October 7th and October 10th. That included a stop in Kansas.
If you were to take a direct route there and back, it would not necessarily include the state of Kansas, but the route on the way back did include the state of Kansas.
When her mother returned, authorities say Melodee was not with her. At this time, Melodee's case remains a missing person investigation. Authorities are asking anyone who may have seen her, possibly wearing a wig with a gray hoodie between October 7th and October 10th during that interstate trip, to contact their tip line immediately. In Vandenberg Village, Crystal Bermudez, KSBY News.
And right now I'm joined by Public Information Officer for the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, Raquel Zick, who's been working around the clock, keeping up with the latest in this case. Raquel, thank you so much for joining us. I know everyone's knocking on your door. Everyone wants your time, so we do appreciate it. I'm interested here, right? So Court TV, people are watching us from coast to coast around the country. And I'm wondering which states, which cities should we be really reaching out to here, where Melodee could potentially be and where Ashlee potentially drove through or stopped with Melodee on that 3-day trip?
So we're generally focusing on, it's a pretty direct route from Lompoc all the way out to Nebraska, but we are making a point to emphasize that on the return trip that she did take what appears to be a bit of a detour down into Kansas and then back up along the regular route to return home. We don't know where along that route Melodee was or is, and that's really our area of focus. So we have 3 days that are our investigative time span, and then for the distance, it is from Lompoc all the way out to Nebraska, down into Kansas and back.
Okay, and the dates, the 7th to the 10th, right? The 7th to the 10th, although I'm thinking if this little girl is still alive, I mean, she could be in one of these areas tonight. So people should not just look back in time, but also pay attention and look for Melodee.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping, is that somebody's going to see this and recognize this young girl. Maybe they will have recognized, a young girl wearing a wig. And maybe that looks like she's trying to shield her appearance or trying to go unnoticed or be unnoticeable or unrecognizable. That's going to probably stand out in somebody's mind when they see a 9-year-old girl kind of behaving in that way. And so we're hoping that that really stands out to people. Kind of looking back to that 3-day period also, people may have, seen the mother-daughter duo as in an out-of-state area with a California plate. That could have stood out in somebody's mind as well. And so piecing together not just that time span, but where Melodee is now is what the Sheriff's Department is working on.
Right. FBI is also involved, but are other local law enforcement agencies involved in as well? People along that route from Lompoc, California, Santa Barbara County, out to Nebraska, down to Kansas and back?
Absolutely. We reached out to the FBI for exactly that reason, because they do have field and area offices, and all of those law enforcement agencies are in contact. So, leveraging our partners at the FBI for that assistance is a step that we took late last week to try to more effectively track down Melodee.
Now, we've covered cases like this before, where parents are not cooperating, not saying anything about their children, and their children are seemingly missing. Is CPS in the loop on that? Are there any judicial orders that have been served on Ashlee Buzzard to present and produce Melodee?
So while I can share that we are working, this is a coordinated effort with our county partners at Child Welfare Services, because this is an action that involves a child. Child Welfare Services is not able to release exactly what it is that they're working on. Child's rights are shielded.
Understand that as well.
Yeah.
What is the last known proof of her being somewhere? Is it this image that we have at the rental car agency that we've been showing everybody?
Yeah, the last verifiable sighting that we have of Melodee is this photo at the rental car location, and it is unfortunately not a very clear picture of what she looks like, which is adding to the challenge. The last really good high quality photo that we have of Melodee is 2 years old. And then the most recent photo that we have of Melodee, her appearance is altered. So it's really difficult to pinpoint exactly what she looks like. And we recognize that we're asking the public to look for a child that is going to be hard to pick out.
Raquel Zick from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, thank you so much. And please, if there's any other information you want us to put out, please let us know and we will do that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing this.
All right. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland, and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Jennifer, I want to start with you because of something that was said here by Raquel, talking about child welfare services and a lot of that stuff, family court stuff, children, it doesn't become public. But what are your thoughts here? Do you think that they are working with a judge perhaps to give an order on Ashlee Buzzard to produce Melodee? Child welfare is on this case. We've seen them knocking on the door at the house.
100%, Vinny. They should be out there if they're not, and they should be out there requiring the mother to produce this child. But, where were they before? That's my question, because it was about a year that people, didn't see the relatives, didn't see her. Mom had her shielded. No one else seems to have contact with this child. I mean, we have a picture from 2 years ago, which is the last sort of picture other than this rental car video that we have. So, I mean, no one sort of knew where this child was. The mother was acting strangely. It's just unbelievable. Children like this, they just sort of slip through the cracks. Now Child Protective Services is on it, but it may be too late. Mom's already been driving through numerous states with this child, so there's a real concern here. We need to act fast and find out what happened to her.
Al?
It's a horrendous situation. And I mean, you sit there and you say to yourself that if my child is missing, there is not enough people I could talk to. There's not enough news agencies I could go on to. There's not enough places that I could spread the word that my child is missing. And she is taking the position that she wants not to talk. And if that doesn't send a signal, because we've seen this all before. I mean, it's not like this is something brand new. It is almost a script of a person who is involved with the horrendous end that is predictable in this circumstance. And this is very, very sad. This child is basically, and as what Jennifer, had alluded to, she's a lost cog in a system where she's been disappeared. She's not around, and no one is springing to her action. No one is trying to figure out where this child is. And for a mother to be sitting there and not helping in trying to find the child, I mean, come on. We all know what that means. It means that this child is not going to be found, and that's the tragedy out of this whole circumstance.
Darnell, let's talk about the right to remain silent and the rights of this child and the rights of the government to jump in and compel this mom to speak. She obviously has the answer to this question.
Yeah, well, that's a twofold analysis. The first part of that is when you're speaking to law enforcement, you have a right to remain silent. And I give the example sometimes when they're trying to search a student's locker at school, the school personnel can do it because they don't have those same rules, but they can't do it at the direction of the police because then now you're violating different Fourth Amendment search and seizure rules. But in terms of the Child Protective Services, they can look for either neglect or abuse, and they try to substantiate one of those. So if you can't tell them where your child is, that's definitely going to be on the neglect side. So they can substantiate neglect because you can't produce where your child is. Your child is missing school. You can't show that they're being fed, clothed, because you don't even know where they are. So that's definitely going to be a neglect, and they can force certain things. Although she has never prosecuted a case in her life, I'm going to have to agree with Jennifer that CPS comes in a little bit too late a lot of times, and we need to start being more preventive of these things and not just coming and playing Monday morning quarterback. Not bad, Jennifer. Good answer.
What's interesting is that just the fact that there are no pictures of this child. Like, go on my phone. My children are like grown up and I still have pictures. And wait until you see the pictures of my granddaughter. I mean, there are just dozens and dozens and dozens each day, each month. There's not a picture of this child for a year. This is the best we can do other than a surveillance video screen grab of her in disguise that is like 2 years after that other photo. To me, that is a sign of a child that is being abused, Jennifer. If there aren't photos, if mom's not taking pictures left and right. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's got a cell phone. How do you not take a picture of your child, especially with those beautiful curls that she has?
Yeah, I mean, as Darnell pointed out, it's neglect. I mean, we don't know what physically has been happening to this child, but she's not to be found. And what's really interesting about this case and odd is that, no one else really was saying anything about it because there's no one else around. The mom was homeschooling this child, but there's no one else, the family, dad's family. I mean, you hear them now, they're at the vigil, they're talking about it, but no one really had contact with this child that they could even say she's missing. So mom had all this time to sort of do whatever she wanted to do with this child, and no one's really keeping tabs on her. And this is just what's so sad. I mean, to be able to take off and just, we don't know what she did to this child. But clearly, from what the relatives had said, that mom has definitely had some issues and was acting strangely, but it's just unfortunate that no one was there to report it. No one saw her. So, and now we'll I guess ultimately find out if mom will ever speak. Otherwise, I mean, I'm sure there'll be some searches for her to determine what happened to this poor little girl.
I'm looking at this situation and I'm wondering, where did the ball get dropped? Now she cut off communication with everyone. She went to the homeschooling route to cut the child off from the rest of the world. She cut off the father's family. The father tragically died when Melodee was just 6 months old in a motorcycle accident. Al, is there anything that the system could have done here?
Well, you know, I look at the in-laws, and I mean, they obviously had a vested interest in what was going on with this girl. You saw the grandmother, you know, speaking highly of her child and showing pictures of him with the granddaughter. And, you know, why was there nothing done there? Why was there no alert at that point? Why is there no one running to say, you know what, there's something going on here that doesn't make sense to me? And that's not happening. And that's a very, very tragic situation. I mean, this grandmother seems to be pretty, you know, upset about what's going on, but just how upset? I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Vinnie, with the fact that, I mean, how many grandparents don't have 5,000 pictures of their grandchild? I mean, how many grandparents don't have an active participation with their grandchild? Most of them are yearning to be able to spend time with their grandchildren, especially in a situation where the son is no longer with us.
Yeah, but the problem is the grandparents don't have the legal ability to do that. Florida changed that a little bit. Some states are trying to give grandparents more rights. It's just not there. All right, good news. Tank is staying with us. When we come back, Bionca Ellis, killer Bionca Ellis, Judgment Day today. Emotional victim impact statements. This was the case where this woman stalked a mom and her little child, a complete stranger, attacked and murdered that little boy. We've got that, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Kata Scott vanished one night in Philadelphia. There was a desperate search until she was found dead. What happened to Kata Scott? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
That woman murdering my son replays in my head every single day. It is my living nightmare. The last thing I will ever hear from my son is his scream, the sound of his pain and fear before he was gone. And I can still see the terror in his eyes, and it haunts me every day.
I don't know what to say. That's Margot Wood. She took her son Julian to the store to do some shopping. Something that all of us parents have done, and probably you might even remember being a child in that shopping cart, going with mom to the store. I remember going to ShopRite and going shopping, and you know, it was great. Mom would put me in the cart and wheel me around the store, and that's all Margot Wood was doing. And then she was stalked and followed by Bionca Ellis, a woman who was out of her mind but not legally insane, who then stalked her and went after her, attacked and killed her son. She was right there. She did everything she could to try to save her son. Why would she expect someone to go after her child? Well, today was sentencing day for Bionca Ellis. Margot Wood and her husband Jared had an opportunity to speak. Take a listen.
I watched my son take his first breaths when he was born. And I watched him take his last in my arms, covered in his blood. A mother should never have to bury their child. A mother is supposed to go first, not her children. A mother shouldn't receive her child's death certificate at 3 years old, and his cause of death is by homicide. I hate you with every fiber of my being. Because of you, I live in constant fear. I hate that I'm here and my son is gone. Just because you have a mental illness Does it mean you can use that to justify you murdering my son?
What I am most sad about now is not just the time I don't get to spend with him, but the time his brother, his sister, his mother, his grandma, and all of our family that doesn't get to spend with him with the time again, and we are all robbed of that opportunity. When we had our daughter, I finally felt I had a full life. I had everything I ever wanted. A beautiful, loving wife, 2 sons and a daughter. It didn't even last all of 2 months before that monster took him from us.
And there's the monster he's referring to, Bionca Ellis. Sentencing day. I'm going to play a little bit of what she had to say, then you will hear from the judge.
Anything on Miss Ellis would like to speak?
I just want to say I apologize. I'm really sorry for what happened.
Okay. All right, you can be seated. Thank you. Miss Ellis, as noted, the jury of your peers has spoken. They have found that although we all have agreed that you suffer from schizophrenia, that you did understand the nature and wrongfulness of your actions as handed down in all of the guilty verdicts by this jury. Regarding aggravated murder and finding the defendant guilty of aggravated murder by this jury, the court's going to hand down a sentence of life without parole.
That was the only thing at stake, was a life with or without parole. Darnell, was that one of the weakest apologies you've ever seen?
Yeah, it was. You know, she suffered from schizophrenia, which sort of means she goes in and out or have different delusions. Now that she's in court, I'm sure they prepared her for this. And typically you kind of go over your allocution. Well, not your allocution at this point. It's just her sentencing statement. You go over your sentencing statement with your client. And it didn't look like they went over anything with her, or maybe she refused to say anything at all. And that's the most they can get out of her. But I don't think it landed any sincerity points with anyone in the room.
No, like, Al, like, I get it. Like, you've got schizophrenia, but you're being treated right now. You're whether she's medicated or she's not who she was that day. She seems a little bit different, but how about a little acknowledgement of what you did and a little remorse? There's zero. I mean, basically handing it to the judge saying, listen, there's no way. I mean, there's no way that someone with this lack of remorse would even a possibility of giving her the chance for parole.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. It was a horrific, lackluster statement under the circumstances. But, I mean, and on the other end of the food chain, what can you say under these circumstances? You've done the most heinous act humanly possible, taking a child's life in front of the child's mother. You know, it's one thing to bury a child, but it's to bury a small child at the age of 3, an innocent child who's done nothing wrong except sitting in a cart, okay, being with mom and having a good time in the supermarket. And that is just horrific. What do you say? I mean, you know, like, part of this whole thing with her was her act about that she was, you know, mentally unstable and this, that, the other thing. Maybe they're going to use that statement at the end of this trial to demonstrate on appeal that she's not fully comprehending what was going on. She didn't fully understand the seriousness of the charges against her, or that the actions that she's done is not comprehensible to her. So maybe that statement is a perfect lead-in to an appeal on the sentencing. But candidly, what can you say? I mean, Mom put it perfectly. That her statement was so heartbreaking that, you know, at that stage of the game, I don't even know if I'd want my client to say anything. You cannot counter that horrific experience of that mother. You can't counter that.
Vinnie, when you look at the tape, not saying that you should jump in and get yourself stabbed up, but it looked like she was wheeling that knife around, and there was a guy right behind. I mean, sometimes you want to tap somebody or say something or, you know, do something that just we're so desensitized. Are we not looking at around us anymore? I mean, this lady's, 10 tons of fun with a knife just wheeling her hand, and people just walking by. Like, what's happening?
But you know what? That whole thing has been discussed and everything within this community. And I mean that you're right. I mean, we are desensitized to this, and this is unbelievable. But as I said, right down the line, what are you going to do with a person like this? How can you counter? How can she explain her actions under these circumstances? It's just not possible. There are not words that one person could convey to say that they were sorry for what they did to that 3-year-old child. I don't care who they are. There's nothing they could say.
I think there's a lot that you can say. I mean, she could say that at the time I was very sick. I didn't know what I was doing. I was out of my mind. I was suffering from schizophrenia. I'm now medicated. I understand what I did wrong. I see a mother who's in pain. I mean, there's a ton that she could say. What do you mean there's nothing she could say? Of course she could say a lot, but she chose not to. And she does have utter lack of remorse. And I think the judge picked up on that. I mean, I think the judge had his mind made up anyway, but I think he picked up on that. If you listen to what he said during the sentencing, he said, he understands that she suffers from an illness, but there was no excuse, that she knew what she was doing at the time, and there is no remorse. So that is thus her sentence.
Speaking of no remorse, next story coming up, Think Tank's going to stay with us. Our next story involves another person we've covered for quite some time here on Court TV, Lori Daybell, snapping back at the judge today at a restitution hearing. Let's break down Doom's Daybell when we come back.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Any drugs, alcohol, or medication in the last 24 hours that would affect your ability to make this decision?
Have I been on any drugs, Your Honor? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking, have you had any drugs, alcohol, or medication that would affect your ability to understand or make this decision today?
Is Your Honor aware that I am in prison? I have no access to any of those things. So no, the answer is no, I have not.
Thank you for answering the question.
Yes, she is a mass murderer with attitude. That's who she is, Lori Daybell, in court. Oh, that's right. Yeah, there aren't any drugs in jail. Okay. By the way, that's like standard language for any knowing waiver of any right. And of course, Lori. And it's just so revealing about who she really is. If you had any doubts after all these trials, if you had any doubts about these, if at any point you felt just a little bit of sympathy towards her, you watch this and it all goes out the door. Let's take a listen to a little bit more. And she's in court because she's got to pay restitution in the cases. And this is the case. She's locked up in Idaho, but this is the Arizona case for the murder of Charles Vallow. So she owes some money to the victims in the case. Take a listen.
Based on how my trials were conducted, since experience tells me that regardless of what I say or what anybody else says, you're going to order it, I am willing to stipulate today. It is my understanding that I have already been ordered by this court to pay over $534,000 in fees, in fines, surcharges, and court fees. So you can add Ms. Woodcock's total of $12,096.97 of restitution to my tab.
And Your Honor, with that correction, it would actually be $11,747.99.
Has anyone forced you, threatened you, or coerced you to get you to agree to pay this restitution?
Only my trials, Your Honor, coerced me.
Al, what do you think of Lori?
Well, it's nice to be snarky under the circumstances. And because you know what? It's added up. She's never going to be able to pay it. So it doesn't really matter. Just throw it onto the woodpile. She already owes over $500,000. And the restitution in this case was almost $12,000. It was for expenses that were led, that the family was led to have to deal with on the death of her husband. And you know what? she's got the same attitude she's had throughout this entire trial. So the nice thing is that she is consistent, if nothing else.
Well, Vinnie, if I could just say one thing, you're absolutely correct. The language in the canvas that the judge was doing is called pro forma. So it's a matter of form. They normally read it from their books. If they're older, seasoned judges, they memorize them, but it's pro form. However, Lori, in her ability or her efforts to be snarky, didn't realize that the judge wasn't saying, did you go and pick up some cocaine on the corner this morning? You can be under drugs and medication that could affect your ability to understand the canvas, because some people have prescribed drugs and they give those to you in jail if you have a condition. And if they gave it to you the morning of a hearing, those drugs could affect you. And so not only is it pro forma, but it's a valid question. She's thinking like, is he saying, did she go buy weed on the corner? So she's just being a bummer with that. And the last thing I would say, who's doing her hair? It looks fabulous. I thought she was in jail.
Well, I know how she does her hair. If you want to let me, I'll let you know. She wets the hair and then rolls it up and lets it dry in the rollers and then lets it go. To me, this little back and forth, Jennifer, really to me was very revealing of her character. And I'm not going to relate it just to this restitution hearing. To me, it's about, okay, who exactly was she? Because it was always confusing about what her role was, who was the leader, who was the follower, was she under a spell, did she really realize what she was doing? Like, to me, this reveals she knows everything that she was doing. She was cognizant of everything.
100%, Vinnie. You're right. In her trials or during her trials, you don't necessarily feel sorry for her, but she just, she was very demure and she didn't act out like this. But now, she's got nothing to lose. She's in jail for the rest of her life. She owes a lot of money. She can kind of say and do what she wants, and that's exactly what she's doing. And now you are seeing the real person who's out there. And she seems pretty pretty much in charge, and not afraid to speak up to a judge. So you wonder really who was the mastermind behind all of this.
And I wonder if prosecutors didn't mess this up and they could have gone forward with the penalty phase of the case. I think the jury may very well have put her on death row.
You're probably right about that. And if they would have saw the attitude that came out and saw the ugliness of her, they would have. And speaking of attitude and ugliness, you got me on the hair things, but my clients don't get to put lipstick on. That's some really bright red lipstick. They're letting them doll up these days in jail?
She knows how to do it. This is her thing. I think she takes whether it's, some powdered drink or whatever, adds it in there, puts it on. It's part of who she is. It's this narcissism that just comes oozing out of her that I think would have sent her to death row, Al.
You're right. But, the question I have is that with regards to, these poor people that are out of all this money, in New Jersey, there is a claims fund for victims of violent crime that would be paying for those expenses that this family had to go through as the result of a victim of a violent crime. Now, she would have to reimburse the state with regards to same. So I'm just curious if that poor family, ended up having to pay all this money out of their pocket and are never going to get that back. Just the way she just said, put it on my tab. It's just like she's sitting in a bar room. And it's very, very sad that would be the situation. As I told you before, in New Jersey, there would be a fund that would have paid all of that. And I hope that's the situation in this case.
Yeah, I don't know if they had to pay the Woodcocks or not, but I do know that ultimately this whole thing had a lot to do with money. And in the case in Arizona, Jennifer, because it was the murder of Charles Vallow. She thought she was getting the insurance. She was so angry when it was Kay Woodcock who ended up getting the money because Charles believed that she would take care of the kids. She killed the kids, but that's what the money was ultimately supposed to be for.
Right, and it must infuriate her even more now that she has to pay restitution to the very person who she probably believes stole the insurance money that she thought she was getting. So, yeah, I mean, that's karma, you know, Vinnie. So, yeah, but I think we can all see that she is not the victim here by any stretch of the imagination.
No, not at all. Big thanks, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Always great to have you. When we come back, I'm going to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a missing woman, a desperate search, and a trail that led detectives to heartbreak. What happened to Kata Scott, and why was her suspected killer not in custody? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
All right, time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Shocker, it was a prank. We showed you this video last week from Virginia that turned into a manhunt or a clown hunt. I don't know what it was. Take a look. This was the video I'm talking about out of Virginia.
Your worst nightmare.
So it's that time of year, right? And what happened as a result of this video, there was a search for the suspects because there was allegedly some damage to a fence. It was a prank. Let's take a listen to the Alexandria, Virginia police chief.
A significant break came after our first press conference. We received multiple tips that created valuable leads. Following those leads, investigators discovered that the three masked individuals were related to the victim. An adult female suspect later confessed that her and her two sons and her nephew, early in their teens, were responsible for approaching the home. In addition, there were two adults and a child in the immediate area filming or standing by for the conclusion of this event. In total, there were 3 adults and 4 children involved. What we now know was a prank. I want to specify the victim had no knowledge of this event. Because the family has chosen not to press charges, the suspects will not be publicly identified.
I guess no one expected the prank to go to that level, but at least we got to the bottom of it. Nobody got hurt, no charges, and hopefully they have a happy Halloween and a nice Thanksgiving with their relatives. All right, take a look at this photo. This is a missing child who needs your help. It's Elena Church. Elena is just 14 years old, missing out of White House, Tennessee. Here's what you can do. Pick up the phone, make a call. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the White House Police Department in Tennessee. That number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Elena to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids. There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.